There we go. I am live. So I'm just quickly checking the phone a little bit. There we go. So, there we go. I'm looking forward to doing some art with you today. We are going to draw some houses. So you can see I have a fun reference picture up on my iPad and I have some pens here and some art materials and I'm ready to dive straight in. So I'm just waiting for people to connect. I know that some of you are waiting to join. So that's wonderful. There we go. So I am going to make a sketch of this house and I'm going to use some pen. I have some fine liners here in different sizes and I have, for a bit of color, a brush pen and some water for my watercolor marker. So really simple materials. I'm going to keep it really simple today. And I'm actually planning to launch a new course where I'm going to really go through the drawing basics. So whilst I'm doing this, I'm already thinking a little bit about how I'm going to do my drawing course that I'm starting next month. So I tend to sketch quite loose and free. I don't really like to work with a grid and with lots of like really specific methods and like technical things. So a quick sip of tea. There we go. I just really like to work based on sort of intuition and just to have fun. So I'm just really working on these larger shapes. So you can see I'm keeping it quite loose. And this is a method that I really like to use for my urban sketching as well. When I do urban sketching, I often sketch in a similar way. Just instantly going in and just having a bit of fun with it. Try not to overthink it and just work based on intuition. And I just recorded a podcast. It's going to be live tomorrow at 12 o'clock on all podcast channels about tips to start drawing, tips to learn to draw and to get better at drawing as well. Because it is really not as big of a mystery as you think. There's a lot of common sense, just methods that you can use to practice. It's really a matter of diving in there and allowing yourself to learn and to make mistakes as well. So there we go. This is a very cute little house. I picked it because I thought it looked very cute here in the forest. Hi everyone, make sure you say hi if you're here, and I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video, and if you want to share it with anyone, then that'd be absolutely amazing, because I'm trying to grow this channel, and the better the video does, the more people see it and the more videos I can create. So there we go. So I love drawing immediately in pen. And you can see that I'm still not super precise. I'm just going over here and correcting some mistakes here and there. And what I really like about drawing in pen is that every line is there to stay. There's no erasing. And even though that might sound scary, I actually find that very liberating. Does that make sense? Just the fact that I don't have to be perfect, the fact that I can create something in a really loose sort of style, and that every line is going to be part of the final artwork, and that it doesn't need to be perfect, because perfection is an illusion. There's no such thing as a perfect drawing. So, and I'm only sketching for a few minutes now. You can see how much I've done already. Only using one pen working from large to small, slowly adding in more details, you can see how much you can draw in such a small time. So what I really like about this pen is that it has a chisel tip, so I can use it to create really fine lines and also thicker lines. So it's something that I really like about it. So I only need one pen and I can create different types of textures. I also often use a brush pen that also has that quality, but is a little bit more irregular. So the benefit of using a pen with a hard tip is that your lines, if you use one side, that they're very even. So there we go. What's everyone up to today? Hi Darren, I'm not sure what you mean. What event did you miss? What event are you talking about? I'm not quite sure what you mean. So, there we go. I decided to use my phone for the live stream because it gives me a bit more flexibility, and that it's also a good way for me to try to see if I can do this whilst I'm traveling a bit more, because I travel quite a lot. I'm often away and I'm sort of practicing my setup to do this in the most sort of flexible way possible. So there we go. So you can see this first sketch is coming together really nicely. You can also see I'm quite a fast drawer, so I will do multiple. There we go. I quite like a wonky line. Your artwork doesn't have to look like it's like an architecture drawing. It is okay to have a bit of a wonky line in there. So there we go. I love drawing in pen. It's one of my favorite sketch tools. And I really enjoy drawing houses as well. So I'm very much in my comfort zone here. Someone requested we would do buildings and houses last week. So there we go. This is what we're doing. And maybe a few trees down here. This is quite a literal interpretation of what we're seeing today, isn't it? Oh, I'm making a mistake. See, it's okay. This is the actual window, so shall I make it a bit darker? There we go. There we go. The windows are quite dark. So I started to shade the wrong area. And that's okay. See, there we go. That's better. When something like that happens and you make a mistake, don't panic. Just accept the fact that you made a mistake, and there's plenty of opportunity to draw over it, or just make some changes to the drawing. It's okay if it looks a little bit different from the reference photo as well. Go, let's add some color. I think I'll just add a bit of color here. and a little bit here on the wall as well. I only selected one color here today, just to add a few little highlights. And this is a water soluble marker. So I love this color, this really bright yellow color. I think it's just lovely. So there we go. If you've been on my website, you can see I use this color quite a lot for my branding as well. I just love it. Such a joyful color. So, and then a bit of water, and then I'll have a think about the next house. I want to pick one that is a little bit different. So you can see you can take some of that paint from the top and then add it to other areas. It's quite an intense color, this marker. So there we go. So that's our first sketch. Took me about 10 minutes to make, and I quite like it. I could add lots more detail, but I sort of fancy moving on and doing the next drawing. So let's have a look. See, these are all lots of houses. I don't really like these really modern ones. I want something a bit more quaint and small, cottagey. Really like these, but I can't really see the bottom of it. It's probably in England. This looks quite local to me. There's a lot of houses like this where I live. Let's see, maybe this one. Slightly different angle. There we go. I will save this picture as well. I can link it in the chat later on, so we can find it. So I always like to take a bit of a deep breath before I start. And shall I start with a slightly thinner pen? Let's do it. So this one, because this was really from the front, this first one, really simple. I'm now going for something that's a little bit more complicated. There's a little bit more perspective in there with these different angles that we're looking at the house of. So I'm just looking at the large shapes, starting with these large lines. If this is the sort of first line that I'm looking at, this pen does not work very well. Let's see if I have another one. What size is this one? Actually, I can use them. So I have a whole box of these pens somewhere, but maybe I picked up the wrong ones. This one is not working very well either. I wanted to go for, I'm just going for the same pen that I was using. I just wanted to start with some finer lines. I've been using these pens quite a lot on canvas, and they're not really meant for canvas. So I'm just looking at those shapes. See, keeping it really loose, looking at these angles. So without any details quite yet. And if I would draw this in pencil, I would approach it exactly the same. First look at these larger shapes, just looking at these angles of the roof, at the larger shapes, and then start thinking about the smaller shapes and the details. I think it's very tempting to dive into the details quite fast, but in reality, you need a bit of time to figure out the shapes before you go into the details. Go from large to small. So, I'm hosting a gouache painting session tonight, so I'm thinking about that. And actually, I don't know if I told you this, but I was yesterday I went for lunch at Parliament. I was invited as part of a small business program, and it was really interesting, super exciting to be there in the House of Lords. Beautiful occasion. See, that was my day yesterday. And today I'm at home in my home studio, and then tomorrow I'm going to my other studio to paint. So life's been quite busy recently. Yeah, lots of things on, which has really been a lot of fun. So this could be the chimney. So there we go. So let's add in some plants here as well. There we go. So I'm just sketching out roughly what I'm seeing, not worried too much about creating everything perfect. This is a bit taller and a bit longer. So this is how I approach sketching a building. I know we've been doing lots of animals recently, and someone asked if we could do some houses and buildings. And I really love drawing buildings. I think there's so many, but I really prefer drawing old buildings. I don't really draw many like modern ones. So there we go. See, slowly and steadily sketching things out. So I actually quite like adding some of these flowers in as well. And when I draw flowers and plants, for a big part it's just doodling. See, my lines are very irregular and I'm just creating a bit of texture here that sort of represents this plant, but in a very simplified way. There's other occasions when I draw plants in a really detailed fashion, but for something like this, for a sketchbook session, I really just like to just see what happens in a really loose way. So there we go. So how it slowly comes together. So this was the first one. The yellow is a bit overpowering, isn't it? And then this is the second one. I'm using my Sea White of Brighton sketchbook, and this is my messy sketchbook. The sketchbook that I use to play in and to to doodle in and just to practice in and to have fun with. And this is not nicely curated art. I'm actually talking about it in this podcast that's coming out tomorrow. This is not sort of super nice curated art. This is my putting things on the paper and practicing sketchbook. And you have a lot of sketchbook artists that share really curated pieces of art in their sketchbook on YouTube and on Instagram and other places. And often they also have a messy sketchbook on the side. Not always, but very often they do. And the benefit of keeping a messy sketchbook is that you can really play and just, no one has to see it. The fact that you see mine is because I choose to show you, but you don't have to show this to anyone. And don't forget that often the sketchbook artists that have really sort of finished pieces of art in their sketchbook, that's often really their practice, right? So that is where they create their finished pieces rather than on a canvas or on loose paper. But they often also create messy art somewhere, and you don't always know that. There's a few exemptions there, of course, but very often people have a sketchbook where they dump their ideas and a sketchbook where they create finished pieces. So, a place where they sketch and a place where they paint, for example. So, I'm going to make the path a little bit different. So, I like a bit of a wobbly stone path. See, there we go. Should we add a little bit of color to this? As I said, I only prepared yellow, but I think I might add a bit of yellow to the outside. So, very bright colors, and I love a bit of yellow. The pens that I'm using are waterproof, which means that if it is wet and I add over it, that the marker, the fine liner stays in place. So you can see here as well, I added some water here, and then the black lines just stay where they are. So that's a really great way of doing this line and wash technique, which is sort of what we're doing now. So it's not really how I approach line and wash usually, but technically that's what it is. So, I'm thinking to add some water to this, but then it's going to be wet, which means that it's going to be a bit harder to do another page. So I might add some water later on. So, quick sip of tea, and then we're moving on. Let's see. I really like that hut, but I don't know if that is interesting enough to sketch today. Just love to look at all these houses. How about this one? So, zoomed in a little bit. It's cute, isn't it? So, there we go. Where shall I start? There's quite a lot to be seen here, so I'm just going to think, okay, this is going to be the roof. So start with the large shapes first, and then the more you practice, the more confidence you will get in the your ability to put down the strokes immediately. So, I don't know if this is someone's house or part of a theme park or a little church. I don't know, it could be anything, right? So. I'm just adding in all the plants as well. I'm just imagining sort of sitting here and looking at all these details, just sketching them out as if I am just sitting here on a little bench looking at this house. That's how I like to approach things. And I know that that's not very technical, but I like that. I'm not a big fan of technical drawing. I just love doing what feels right and just having fun and using it as a way to explore and to experiment and to create some wonky lines. So I think sometimes people are so focused on creating realistic art. Sometimes it's much more fun to see what happens if you don't have to be realistic and if you let go of that. And then often that gives the most interesting results. So there we go. Yeah, so tonight gouache painting. I'm really looking forward to it. It's my first community session this month. So for you, those of you who don't know yet, I host a creative community where you can be a member of, and it costs £15 a month. And there's 4 Zoom live sessions, which I think is quite a good rate, to be honest. And it also includes all the recordings of all the classes I've ever taught, and discounts to my courses and lots of other inspiration and extra things. So yeah, make sure you check it out if you're curious, if you'd like to do more art with me. Just a little plug for my community there. So, and of course, we're not drawing like this, and these classes are proper classes where you actually learn with a sketch template, and we're really going through all the materials and everything in much more detail. This is just me sketching and chatting to you. So there is a different approach to things. So a bit more interactive as well. I can answer questions here, but it's always a little bit more limited. So sometimes I get these little notifications on my iPad when someone goes onto my website or there's some sort of other activity. I quite like it. This needs to be a bit darker. So there's quite a lot of shadow here in the front, isn't it? I quickly popped into the Tate Modern, the Modern Art Museum in London yesterday. And there's an exhibition on Kandinsky there at the moment. I didn't have time to stay long, so I'll definitely go back another time. I have a membership, so I can pop in and out really easily every time that I'm there. But there was some sketchbooks as well, which was really interesting to see, because you have these finished Kandinsky paintings, and this was all part of an expressionist exhibition. So you have these finished pieces, but then there's also some sketchbooks where you can see how they practiced a specific pose before they added it into the painting. And I think it's really interesting because people often forget that even famous artists need to practice a certain pose or a composition, or they brainstorm first before they add things to their final artwork. And I think sometimes we forget about that. We don't appreciate the fact that sketching is such an important part of the creative process. So, there we go. I hadn't really done any art yet today. Normally I start my day with sketchbooking, but I'm doing this thing called the artist way. You might not know about it yet, but there's this thing called the artist way, and it's quite an old book from the 70s, all about creative practice. I'm following that at the moment, and I need to journal every morning, so that means that my sketchbooking is slightly deprioritized for a little while. So this is my first drawings of the day. Hi, really lovely to see you. I can see there's a few more people joining in, which is great. You know, you can always find this just by going onto my YouTube page, right? You don't have to, you don't need a login link or anything. I know people sometimes are a bit confused. I list these classes on Eventbrite just because I had a very small audience when I first started. And I just wanted to let people know that I was doing these live sessions. So there was quite a lot of people who follow me on Eventbrite, you know, join my classes there. So this was a great way for me to let people know about these sessions. Yeah, by just listing them as a free event there. So that's why I started doing that. So, but you don't need to buy tickets there. You can just join into these live sessions by going to YouTube. Should we add a little bit of color to this one as well? I think the yellow is a bit bright, but it is the color I have here. Shall I maybe use a different color? I have something a bit darker. Or even I've got some highlighters here. So I have lots of pens here that were gifted to me. I've not really used these yet. I was actually planning to do a little giveaway on those at some point, but I have not really looked into that yet. I know I keep saying it, I've said it a few times, but so. I think that's quite fun, a little bit of background color. So. And sometimes less is more, so sometimes it's good to really limit your color palette when you make a sketch, and it really simplifies things a little bit. Hello Yvonne, lovely to meet you. I hope you are well as well. Thanks for saying hi to me here. So yes, this is a highlighter. There we go. Have a little bit of a closer look wobbly. So there we go. So this is where we are at right now. I don't know if the chat goes over the page if you're looking at this. Yeah, there we go. So in a really short amount of time we have made 3 pictures of 3 different houses, and I have so often people say to me like, oh, I don't have enough time to make art. My life is so busy, and you know, I get it, we're all busy, but you really don't need lots of time to make art. Like 5-10 minutes sometimes is enough. And this is quite a large page. If I work smaller, I have this really small sketchbook. This one, for example, is my travel sketchbook that I use to see a similar approach. I've drawn this in Cambridge from life. I only use this sketchbook for drawing in reality. So this is a super messy sketch, isn't it? I don't even know. No, it definitely goes like this. These are houses. Yeah. I only ever use this sketchbook to draw from life. So when I'm on holiday or when I'm out and about, I take it with me and I use it to draw the world around me. So you can see that's really small, the size of my hand. And it only takes me a few minutes to do a sketch like this. This was the top of a church. Same approach, I added some color to it with marker. And I know that these sketches are not always perfect, but it's not about creating something that's hyper realistic. Sometimes it's about just capturing, you know, the essence of that moment. Sometimes I only sketch for a few minutes. Yeah, so this turned into a little sketchbook tour. This is my travel sketchbook. Some swans. It's actually starting to fill up quite nicely. This was July last year. So you can see it takes me quite a long time to fill this sketchbook because I work in a lot of different sketchbooks at the same time for different purposes and for my courses and different things. So yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to actually fill the sketchbook. This was also a live session. I did that whilst I was traveling somewhere. This is not so long ago. This was in Cambridge. This tree. I love the rain trees. It's really fun to do. Yeah, so as I'm saying, you don't always need to have loads of time or the perfect art materials to make a drawing. Just a few minutes is enough. This is the last one I did, I think. Yeah, there we go. So this was, I traveled to the Netherlands and I had to wait for the ferry and I made this quick sketch. See, very messy, similar to what I'm doing here, just a little bit quicker. And that's my messy sketchbook approach. I do have some sketchbooks as well that I create really finished pieces in, which I quite often use for my live sessions in my community. So I grab that as well, since we're talking about it. Yeah, so that's this one. This is my tidy sketchbook that I use for more finished paintings, such as this one. So I take a lot longer doing these. Do I know how to draw dragons? Yes, actually, I love fantasy. I'm a big fantasy fan. Not so much science fiction, more fantasy. But I used to draw a lot of dragons, and I have a whole collection of them. But not so much in here on YouTube recently. Yeah, so this is my slightly nicer sketchbook. So I used to sell art prints of my dragon paintings, but because it's so different from what my business looks like nowadays, it's a little bit different. I'm assuming your name is Nico. Yeah, that's really funny. I think that's a a great way of spending your time. So hopefully your mum is not too upset with you. So this sketchbook is all from around the same time. A lot of these are from my creative community membership where we are painting and drawing together. So there we go. This turns into a little bit of a sketchbook tour, and I might as well continue to the end now because these are the last few pages. There we go. This was the last session in this sketchbook. So I will paint here on this side tonight. I'm gonna keep that here because I will need it later. So thank you so much for joining in. I don't think I will draw dragons on this channel anytime soon. Yeah, I love watercolor and gouache. I use a lot of mixed media, watercolor, gouache, color pencils. Yeah, I love using lots of different mediums. So thank you so much for joining in. Really lovely to see everyone. And yeah, make sure you like this video. It helps me a lot. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all soon. Bye.